Winners aren't losers, and losers aren't winners. Michael McLean, nobullbook.com, badassletter.com. The toughest advice for the toughest business men. Horsepower, not horse shit. Absolutely cool, finally gorgeous morning. Maybe even my buddy Clifford will join me on my 15,000 step walk this morning. Just love the solitude of a nice fresh morning. I'm usually the first footprints on the road. Nobody's driven out with their vehicles yet. And the sun is just coming up here to my right. Life is a gift, especially our mornings, if we get up and capture them. Get to bed early, get up early, early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise. Now that is one of my favorite sayings. So, you either have, me, we either have what I call the winner's DNA, or you have the loser's DNA. It's one or the other in 2022. I see it in every person I talk to. I see it in every businessman that I consult with. I see it in every hockey player I coach. I see it in every person that I speak to in real life. You are one of two people. You either have optimistic, can-do, grateful DNA, or you have pessimistic, ungrateful, loser DNA. So it's winner DNA in my mind versus loser DNA. And this is why winners aren't losers and losers aren't winners. That is a saying from my old assistant video coach, Jeff Jordan, who was our video coach, an assistant coach on our 2019 Barclay Cup championship team. And Jeff is a wizard when it comes to breaking down team systems. I mean, there's no power play, there's no penalty killing, there's no strategy that he can't break down. And this is why he is in the St. Louis Blues NHL hockey organization now as a video coach for their AHL team, one level from the NHL. Whatever Jeff touches in sports turns into a championship ring. He came and worked with our team for 5 months. What was the result? Barclay Cup championship ring. He's won championships in minor hockey. He's won championships in junior hockey. And last year he went to the finals with his team in the AHL. Whatever he touches turns into a championship ring. And he would always say that when we were getting to know each other, when I hired him as my video coach. He'd constantly preach, Coach, winners aren't losers and losers aren't winners. I would ask his opinion. I'd say, Jeff, we have this opportunity to bring this player into our team here at the trade deadline. What do you think? And he would always respond, well, winners aren't losers, or he would say, losers aren't winners. We'd have an opportunity to bring a certain athlete in from maybe a last place team. And he knew the athlete personally because he coached them. He knew the mom, he knew the dad. And, he would say, even though they're coming from a losing program, he knew the kid personally, he knew the athlete, he knew the mom, he knew the dad. He would say, well, winners aren't losers. it's worth taking a risk on this particular player. And then he loves to gamble. He's one of these guys who, one of his passions is gambling. That's his so-called cross to bear, in my opinion. So Jeff, I'm always like, I said, okay, who do you, he's a big football guy, NFL guy, college football guy, NHL guy. And I said, okay, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the defending champions this year in the playoffs, are playing in the first round, the Toronto Maple Leafs. You have the two top teams in the Eastern Conference playing each other in the first round. 113 points versus 109 points. So two perennial powerhouses. And a lot of people are picking the Toronto Maple Leafs to win. So I asked Jeff, I said, who's your money on, Jeff? Who are you picking, Tampa Bay or Toronto? And he turns to me and he goes, Coach, Tampa, winners aren't losers. And then he said, Toronto, who hasn't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. 1967 since they last won a cup, before I was born. And he said, Toronto, losers aren't winners. And as harsh as that can be, it proved out as Tampa Bay won the series after being down 3-2. They win it in 7 games. And even after they're down 3-2, I remember I sent an email to Jeff and I said, man, your prediction, Tampa's down 3-2. And he's like, hold on, Coach. Winners aren't losers, and losers aren't winners. It reminds me of the story that Jimmy Johnson told one time to Dan Kennedy when they were on the same success speaking circuit, where they would go into these arenas and speak to 20,000 people, 30,000 people, and they would bring in these celebrity sports speakers. And Jimmy Johnson, the two-time Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl head coach, was one of the occasional speakers. And Dan told me about one time talking to Johnson in the green room, the room where they sit and drink coffee and whatever before and after their speech. And in typical Kennedy fashion, he talked. He didn't just, he wasn't like, oh, I put guys on pedestals. Whenever he was back in there with a former president or a CEO or somebody of super level success and achievement, the first thing Dan would always do is grill the person on their personal success, on their business success. So one of these times he was in the green room with Coach Johnson, and he asked him about the complete rebuild in Dallas, where Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys. They were a 1-15 team with Herschel Walker, their only all-star player, and they ended up trading Herschel Walker, if you remember, which was the start of the rebuild. And everybody was incredibly critical and volatile towards Jerry Jones and Jimmy, because when he bought the team, he basically showed the door to legendary head coach Tom Landry. Like, he literally, retired the godfather of the Dallas Cowboys. Landry was a god. So that was a rough, troublesome start. But Jerry didn't care. He had a plan for the team. He wanted to bring in his college roommate, Jimmy Johnson. He had a plan for taking this team from America's team, from the outhouse to the penthouse. And he didn't listen to the critics, and he didn't listen to the media, and he didn't listen to the talking heads, and he didn't listen to the so-called football experts. He went with his golden gut, his intuition, and the rest was history. So they traded Herschel Walker to make the turnaround go faster. They loaded up on draft picks. And most importantly, like Jimmy said, we picked the right players with these picks. We're talking about guys like Troy Aikman. We're talking about Herschel Walker, Emmitt Smith. We're talking about guys like, you just go down the list. I mean, Michael Irvin, all these guys that they picked with all these draft picks that they got for Herschel Walker, who at the time, admittedly, was past his prime. I mean, he was an aging superstar. So Jimmy took these players and these picks, and he designed the Cowboys back into a Super Bowl powerhouse. And a handful of years later, they won 2 consecutive Super Bowls before Jimmy and Jerry could no longer share the trophy, and Jimmy Johnson went on his own way. But nonetheless, Dan Kennedy asked Jimmy, he said, how in the world did you take a 1-15 team in turmoil in the outhouse to a handful of years later, a back-to-back Super Bowl champion? And Jimmy Johnson turned to Dan and said, simple, I got rid of all the losers. I got rid of all the losers. And I would think that he was talking about some of the players. He was talking about staff. He was talking about coaches. He was talking about trainers. He was talking about front office personnel, because losing is cancer. It's a cancer in your culture. And when I took over the Perth Blue Wings in my first year, 22nd place out of 22 teams. So I buy that team and it's on the emergency operating table. I mean, it's rock bottom. It's 22nd place. The culture is poisonous. The whole thing is rat poison. So what do you do in those situations? Well, the same as I did in my dad's agency when I didn't like the attitude and I didn't like the entitlement. I didn't like the work ethic. I took a broom to the place. So I took a broom to McLean Insurance when I bought it, and I took a broom to the Perth Blue Wings when I bought it. I cleaned house. You don't hear that much anymore in 2020. Nobody cleans house anymore. You know, you should just, as the great Jack Welch said, he said, you should always be curating the bottom 20 out of your business and your personal life. In other words, you should always be firing the bottom 20. Well, today in 2022, that could easily be 30%. We should constantly be cutting the rope, using the swift sword, and curating out the bottom 30% of our business. Our bottom 30% of our clients, prospects, employees. Same thing with our teams. There should be a constant turnover of 30% of the bottom of your roster. Coaches, players, whatever it is. And that's how the great Jack Welch looked at running GE at the time, one of the most impressive and highly profitable businesses in America. So winners aren't losers and losers aren't winners. I'm an optimistic guy in terms of accurate thinking. I believe that a person can change. I don't believe in this horse shit that a person cannot change. A person can change. A businessman can change with 2 things. You need to change your environment, as I said yesterday, and you need to add rules into your life to succeed. If you do those 2 things, you will change. You'll change over 21 days, 30 days, 40 days, 90 days, 365 days. If you want to change any behavior from a negative to a positive, all you need to do is change your environment to support that new behavior. And secondly, put in a personal rule. A rule is more powerful than a habit. A rule is more powerful than a ritual. A rule is a unfuckwithable, non-negotiable standard in your life. As an example, you could say, okay, I no longer smoke cigarettes. You immediately stop buying tobacco. You immediately stop having tobacco in your life. You immediately stop spending time with other smokers. You immediately curate anybody and anything in your life that has to do with smoking or tobacco. And then you write down a rule in your journal every day. I no longer, as is, that's the thing, as if it's happened, I no longer smoke cigarettes. And you can do this for any negative habit to turn it into a positive habit that supports you. Just curate out anything and everything, including people that no longer supports that environment, no longer supports the new habit, and make it a rule. And that's what winners do. That's how guys that are losing turn their life into winning. But it's extremely rare because most people, most losers, have no interest in changing. They talk a good game, but they do not, I repeat, do not play a good game. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, which DNA do you have? Do you have the optimistic winner's DNA, or do you have the pessimistic loser's DNA? I talk about this a lot, where I feel incredibly blessed every morning. One of the things that I thank my Creator for every day in prayer is the year 2022. I am so grateful that my feet are out here walking on this road. I'm so grateful, and I feel so blessed that I can live in a time in history where the abundance and opportunity is almost unlimited. I have the optimistic winner's DNA. I always have. I got that from my mom, and I got that from my dad, where I'm just like, every year is even better. This is why Krista and I are so bullish on being parents in 2022. We talk to a lot of different moms and dads in sports and activities and school that my daughter is involved with. And, you know, you run into a lot of pessimistic DNA. You run into a lot of loser attitudes about, well, 2022 is a lousy time to, you know, be raising kids. There's so many challenges, which there is. There's always been challenges. But they have that pessimistic loser DNA. They don't have an attitude of gratitude. They don't believe that this is the greatest time in history to be alive. And they honestly have a scarcity, pessimistic mindset where they don't believe in abundance and opportunity. And you can hear it in everything they say. Krista and I are the absolute opposite. We're bullish on 2022 as parents. We have a hardcore belief that if we teach our daughter Emery an extreme hard work level of work ethic, if we teach and model integrity, self-discipline, mental toughness, if we model for her championship effort, championship work ethic, championship mental toughness, championship kindness, championship, you know, habits like reading and exercising and winning and losing, then she's going to be what we call the CEO of her life. Every day I tell her, you get into entrepreneurship so you have the freedom, the personal sovereignty to be the CEO of your life. And even though she's only 9 years old, we see it in other children where, you know, they've been sucked into technology. Their parents have let them, you know, fall into that world of digital addiction, and the kids, they're not outside enough. They don't get enough time in nature. They're starting to, you know, they're immersed in their phones. They're immersed in their iPads. And Emery, we do the opposite. We've chosen to go the opposite way. We focus on sports. We focus on exercise. We focus on mental training like chess, math lessons with the great Dan Leonis every single day in the summer, but Sundays. We just basically have chosen to take the road less traveled. We've seen the crowd and we've decided to take a different path. So, you know, winners aren't losers and losers aren't winners. And you have to ask yourself, you know, do you have that investment mindset of the winner, or do you have that scarcity mindset of most losers? What you're doing, are you investing in yourself? Are you investing in your health, your mental health, your marketing, your marriage, your children? Or do you have a scarcity mindset where everything is a corner cut, everything is a hack, everything is a savings, and everything costs too much? It's the old, well, I can't afford that. Well, you know what that means in my language? I won't afford that. I won't afford that. It's like my brand new newsletter, which, by the way, the deadline is this Wednesday, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when we have to send the names, the file of names, to the printer. So that's the deadline. If you have not registered by tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, you're out. There's nothing that Leanne can do for you until the next newsletter. So you're going to miss out if you have not subscribed. You're going to miss out on the inaugural first edition of my Michael McLean World Building Letter. You can sign up at badassletter.com and fix that problem. You're going to be left out on the sidelines alone. I've got, it's going to be an awesome 12-page paper and ink publication. I talk about marriage, I talk about wealth, I talk about money, I talk about mental toughness, I talk about time management, I talk about what my challenges are, what's working, what's not. It's $3.23 per day. So do you have the winner's optimistic DNA? Do you have that abundance mindset? Do you have that, mindset of abundance and opportunity? Or do you have the loser DNA, the scarcity, pessimistic DNA? Things today are all messed up, and look what's happening in the White House and all this other horse shit. Are you kidding me? What matters most is what happens in your house, not the White House or any other house. What happens in your world, what happens in your kingdom, what happens in your marriage, what happens with your children, what happens with your grandchildren. That's the house that matters. So you can subscribe. I got some really great free bonuses. They're gone also tomorrow night at 6 p.m. One of these badass, relentless, Be Relentless shirts. I don't sell these anywhere else. The only guys that have them are my world builders from a couple months ago. I throw in one of these t-shirts with your August newsletter. You get fax and real mail access to me. You can ask me any questions. I'll get back to you. You can fax me any question, mail me any question. Marc Andre's put together a world building locker room forum for us, not fake book. It's our own private forum. I'll be putting confidential videos in there, special trainings from time to time, all kinds of different and new things that'll be for newsletter subscribers only. You can't get those. You're locked out if you're not a newsletter subscriber. Discounts on upcoming books and masterminds and coaching courses. And also, what else is in there? Oh, a hard copy of my old Michael McLean, How to Not Get Your Ass Kicked in the Insurance book. It's like a quick read, 100-page paper and ink book. But here's the thing. It's the blueprint I've used in every industry I've been in to sell over 155 million in products and services and counting. So I've used the blueprint that I reveal in that book in the hockey business, in the window washing business, in the restaurant business, in the insurance business, in the coaching and consulting business, in the real estate investment business. So that's a pretty valuable blueprint to have in your hands for $3.23 per day. But a word of warning before you click or go to badassletter.com. If you have the loser DNA, if you're one of these pessimistic, quitters who says, this is not the best time to be alive, and you don't believe in it, you don't believe in opportunity and abundance, or you have a closed mind, don't bother subscribing. At this point in my career, I work with champions, not chumps. And I work with contenders, not pretenders. And I work with kings, badass kings, not excuse makers. If you're the type of man who, well, I'm going to get that shirt and that book, and then I'm going to cancel after 30 days, just stay the fuck away from me. Okay? As a pro coach, amateur coach, as a 8-figure net worth individual in business, I suffer no fools. And I don't want to suffer any fool like that. If you're not dedicated every month to your marriage and your marketing and your money and your business, then just stay away from me. It'll save me curating you out. It'll save me cutting the rope with you. It'll save me all of that time. You're a time vampire. I want nothing to do with you. And I do not, one of my personal rules is I do not ever, ever, ever cater to quitters. So this is the reason I have the rule. If you ever quit on me, I quit on you. In other words, if you unsubscribe from this channel, then you're dead to me. If you unsubscribe from my email list, don't come whining and crying back to Leanne because you've been blacklisted and you've been canceled. Yes, an entrepreneur gets to cancel. I get to choose who I want to do business with. I get to choose who I want to help in this world. The same thing applies for my brand new newsletter, my Michael McLean World Building Letter. If you cancel, okay, if you have that scarcity, pessimistic loser DNA where you're like, well, this is an expense I don't need. If you look at $3.20 as an expense, don't bother signing up in the first place, because I don't cater to quitters. Just one single idea inside that newsletter every month can 25x, 50x, 100x your tiny investment. $97 a month is chump change. That's pocket change to a badass millionaire who actually reads it, studies it, and takes action and executes some of the strategies and tactics and ideas. But if you're a natural quitter, stay away from me. This is not for you. If you do cancel, you'll be blacklisted by Leanne. You'll be canceled. And no, you won't whine and cry and come back on bended knee looking to subscribe in 6 months. That's not. I deal with winners, not losers. And losers aren't winners. So that's my policy. Is it harsh? Is it tough? Yes. It's based in 31 years of bloody-nosed experience in the trenches. It's based in 22 years of coaching the most mentally tough, some of the most physically gifted athletes on the planet in both pro and amateur. That's where my policy comes from. I work with winners, not losers. And I never, ever, ever cater to quitters. So that's it for today. Ask yourself, okay, time to do a checkup from the neck up. Do you have optimistic? Do you have an abundant, optimistic winner's DNA? Is that your mindset? Or are you trapped in this news, politics, anti-social media story that's told to you, which I call loser DNA? Pessimistic, scarcity, things are tough, whatever. That's loser DNA, and it's one or the other. There's no 50 shades of gray. It's 50, it's 2 shades, black and white. You either have the winner's, the champion's mindset, or you have the loser's mindset. And if you need to make a change, get rid of everything in your world, everything and everybody in your world that doesn't support your new champion's optimistic winner's DNA and mindset. That's it for today. If you haven't got a copy of my book, start there. nobullbook.com. My newsletter deadline is tomorrow at 6 p.m. After that, you are out until the September edition at least. So you're either in or out, badassletter.com, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be doing a free webinar training for only newsletter subscribers later this next month, only for newsletter subscribers. So that's a training you're also going to be included in. Do what I do every single day. Go home at the end of the day or whenever and hug your wife and children and tell them how much they mean to you. Life is a gift, and you have to have that attitude of gratitude that the most important people in our lives are standing right in front of us. Our wives, our children, our grandchildren. And make sure, as a badass king, that they know every day how you feel, that they are the most important. And then back it up with the badass king behavior. When you're at breakfast, be at breakfast. When you're talking to your kids, be talking to your kids. When you're having some downtime with your wife, have downtime with your wife. Lock that phone away at 6 o'clock at night, have dinner, and then that's it for the day. And that's the winner's DNA. So that's it for today. 2 words that changed my life and 2 words that can change your life. Be relentless.